Hi, everyone. This is your host, Kristen Howe, and I would like to welcome you to our call with today's amazing guest, Suzanna Kennedy. Suzanna is known as the Graceful Transformation Expert and is an author and a radio host. She's a frequent guest speaker on the topics of conscious evolution, energy medicine, healing, relationships, and transformation. In 1998, Suzanna left a successful 18-year career as a corporate training consultant to establish her own institute. And for the past 15 years, she has guided thousands of people on their pathway to paradise. She is recognized as a leader in the evolution of human consciousness and specializes in graceful transformation. As a visionary and reality architect, Suzanna offers a grounded, systematic approach to moving through accelerated change with grace and ease. And on today's call, I just want to give you all a heads up. You will want to have a pen and paper because we are going to get into some really cool stuff. There's going to be a mini workshop on here. You will also discover the 3 fundamental steps to graceful transformation. You'll find out an exact blueprint for building your personal paradise. You'll find out the 6 core issues you must deprogram from your subconscious mind. You'll receive a mini workshop to learn how the 6 core issues have affected your life, and you'll get a simple, guided, systematic approach to subconscious deprogramming. So I can't wait for this. This is exciting. Like I said, everyone get your pen and paper and let's get ready to go. And Suzanna, I'm so excited. Welcome to the call.
Aloha, Kristen. Thank you for inviting me to be with you. This is exciting.
I know. I can't wait to share you with everyone. Okay, so what I'd love to do is have you start by sharing a little of you and your story with us. So what maybe are some of the major turnarounds that you've experienced and how you ended up here? You have quite an interesting past that brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, well, the universe has a funny way of setting things up, and I really believe that we're all born into the perfect situation, and we set ourselves up for all the experiences that we're going to need to fulfill our soul purpose. So I was born in a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City. And now I live in this beautiful, lush garden isle. It's called the Garden Isle of Hawaii. Kauai. It's truly a paradise. So I've experienced my pathway to paradise, definitely. And and just on that note, if you happen to hear roosters in the background, that's quite common. They just are all over the place, and I live on a little organic farm, so sometimes they just like to chime in. So just so you know. Anyway, when I was a young child, to me, everything was alive. It all spoke to me, the plants, the animals, my dolls, my toys. I mean, it was like kind of being Snow White in a Disney movie. And my dolls told me things that no one else seemed to know. And these things would come true. Now, this really freaked out my mother. It really scared her. And my father would just roll his eyes and say, she's got a very active imagination. And so I knew by the tone in his voice that he really didn't believe me. And for some reason that really hurt me. And when I asked my dolls why he couldn't hear them or see the things that I was seeing, they told me that he didn't believe that they were alive. So they weren't real to him. And so the connection between what people believe and what they experience in their reality was a fascination to me, since I've been about 3 or 4 years old. Now, when I was 6, something happened and it shut everything down. My mother lost sight of me in the backyard one summer day, and she came rushing out of the house. She was in a hysterical panic. And when she found me, I was around the other side of this big sand pile. She grabbed my shoulders and she hugged me and she shook me and she, yelled at me, "Where were you?" And, in this big, missile of energy went from the center of her chest into mine. And my body actually kind of hunched over at that impact. And, I didn't know it at the time, but years later, when I was in a healing session with an intuitive, I learned that she transferred a repressed memory from her childhood into me. And what I found out was that when my mom was 6, she was sexually abused. So when she couldn't find me in the backyard, it triggered that memory for her. And so she was afraid that I was in danger. Mm. So it was during that healing session that I really realized that not only me, but a lot of us carry around trauma from, and it's not even from our own experience. So some of our defensive, constrictive behaviors can come from our parents or our ancestors, and that trauma can be actually passed down through the generations. So that experience actually shut down my emotional body, and I lost my ability to hear and see my magical world. And, you know, I believe that my dolls talking to me, those were my spirit guides and teachers. And, of course, I was devastated, and I felt abandoned and lonely. And when I grew up, or as I was growing up, my spine actually grew in that kind of hunched over position. And I think now that was a kind of a subconscious strategy to, you know, protect my heart. So wow. I just wonder, you know, asking everyone who's listening to just kind of tune in and just ask that question: what are you carrying around from your ancestors? So, you know, I grew up, my parents were married in the 50s. So as a little girl, I was programmed to get married and have children. And so I was married by the time I was 19, and I had my 2 children close together in my early 20s. So I was living my programming and honestly feeling quite unfulfilled. I really loved being with my children. You know, at that point I was a stay-at-home mom, and I loved being with them, of course, but I also felt I needed more adult stimulation. So I volunteered to coach new expectant mothers. And since I lived in the Motor City, there was a lot of men being transferred from all over the world into these management jobs in the big 3 auto companies. So there was a lot of young couples there that were having babies. They were totally isolated from their family and had no local support. So I started out coaching these couples, and then I, you know, morphed into leading groups. And one day the program director said, "Suzanna, you're the only group leader that has been able to keep the dads involved. In all the other groups, the dads come to the first meeting and then they never come back. Can you train our group leaders to keep the dads coming back?" And I was like, wow, I didn't know. I felt surprised, and I was honored by the request. And then around that same time, I took a course at the local adult ed program, and it was called Introduction to Microcomputers. So this is like before PCs were even invented. And anyway, the instructor pulled me aside and said, "You're always the first one done with your assignments. You're helping everybody else around you. I think you'd make a good teacher. Would you teach this class for me?" So that was how my career in training kind of got started. So I got my bachelor's degree. It took about 9 years because I was going part-time and raising my kids. And then I got my master's, and a master's of science in instructional and performance technology. And I guess it was so natural because I did very well. And I did achieve a very high level of success in my field. And before I left it, the training that I had designed and developed for Ford Motor Company had gone out to 50,000 people. It had been 104 different countries, translated into 14 different languages. So, but even, you know, with all this success, I still didn't really feel that fulfilled. I kept saying, you know, was I really put on this planet to teach guys how to run a car dealership? You know? I just don't think so. There's got to be something more. And I think that question, just putting that question out into the universe, I got an answer. And it came in a very surprising form. I woke up one morning, and it was a Saturday morning, and this energy was just pulsing up my spine in waves. It was very intense. And, my spine was actually kind of undulating on the bed. It was very intense and scary. And I kind of cried out and said, "Oh my God, what's happening to me?" And I heard an answer. And I hadn't heard very much in a long time, but it was very clear. And it was, "You are giving birth to yourself. Just breathe." So I did the Lamaze breath, the childbirth breath. Mm-hmm. And it was the only one that I knew. And anyway, it took about an hour and a half for this energy to finally calm down. But when it did, I felt like a completely different person. And I had this whole other perception, this whole other viewpoint of myself. And I could see, it was really clear that whoever I thought I was up until that moment was not who I was. And that I was this much vaster being. And I didn't really understand it, but I could feel the vastness of my true essence. And that had been birthed into my body. And I could still see this identity, that I had, and I recognized it as a bunch of programs, I guess because I had been dealing with computers, that's the image that came to me, like this self-identity program. And, we call it the ego. And I could see that program, that self-identity program, was created in the first 7 years of my life. And obviously found out later on that, of course, this is true for everybody because we are in this really open, vulnerable brainwave state that's very much like hypnosis. And we just download everything that's coming in at that time. And then that goes into the subconscious. I went then on a mission to find out how to clear that programming, because even though now I knew it wasn't me, it was still there in my cells. I could totally see it. And I knew that if I didn't clear it, then I wouldn't be able to be who I really was and do what I came here to do, which at this point now became a driving force. Like I knew I am here for a purpose. I was just birthed here into this body, and I have to find out what that is and start doing it. So that led me to find a way to do that, to do just that, is to clear the subconscious programming and to transform and clear the emotional body, which I could also see was having a very strong effect on my reality. And so I did find a way to do that, and it was a healing modality called natural integration by a man named Adam David. And so I did that with him, and it worked really well for me. And so I became certified in that modality, and it helped me to actually make a very graceful transition from my old life into a new one. It only took a year to move and totally change my life. And I moved to Sedona, Arizona, and started helping other people deprogram their subconscious. And, synchronicity expanded so much for me, after I was really clear of all this, that everything in my life took on that magical quality again. And when that experience happened to me, it actually did turn everything back on. I regained my ability to hear and see my guides and energy and receive information. And that guidance really was very helpful, and it guided me to do a lot. I mean, as a matter of fact, it guided me for 2 years to go to different sacred sites throughout the world. And when I would be in these sacred sites, I would receive information and activation and sacred initiations. And, I spent like these 2 years and $100,000, I think, following my guidance. But it was so worth it because I got to a certain point. I was in this cathedral in France, and I received this really strong energy download. It came in through the top of my head this time. The other thing had gone up my spine, but this was a download. And my guide said, they told me, consider yourself pregnant. A gift for the world is going to be born through you. And sure enough, about 9 months later, I birthed a consciousness technology, and it allows me to help others to embody their human divinity gracefully. So it was at that point then that I moved to Kauai here. And over that next year, I used my skills as an instructional designer to take all of the downloads of information and the activations and the initiations and organize it all into a step-by-step program so that I could help as many people as possible on their pathway to paradise. So I went through the program myself, and then when that was complete, I felt ready to call in my sacred union partner. And so within 6 weeks, my beloved Casey answered the call all the way from St. Louis, and we've been together for 12 years now. So, Kristen, we've absolutely loved our version of paradise. So I'm really excited to share it with as many people as possible.
I love it. And your story, actually, it's so inspiring as it is. So I'm so thrilled that you just shared that with us. And, the transformation that you experienced within there, I mean, it sounds like it's an ongoing transformation. And you talk about graceful transformation. In fact, that's the key to your approach. Can you give us an idea of what you mean by graceful transformation?
Yes. So, first of all, transformation, we're talking about really changing from one form of being to another, like, a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. So not just like little incremental changes, but the key is graceful. So everyone who's attracted to this call is going to go through this transformation. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been attracted here, really. So you will, and you can go through it kicking and screaming, or you can go through it in the graceful way. So let me give you an example of a non-graceful way, just so you get that. So the non-graceful way is you hear intuitive messages to make some changes in your life, and you ignore them. And so some of us, might have had those already, and you might dismiss them as, oh, that's just my imagination, or I'm too busy to deal with that. So we all have self-identities, this ego. We have ways that we identify ourselves through our jobs, our relationships, our children, our functions, our status in the community. But our higher self wants us to know the truth, that we are so much more than that vastness of being that I talked about. That's true for all of us. So, if you don't listen to those intuitive messages to make those changes, your higher self might just have to take matters into its own hands. And so you might get laid off from that job that you felt so identified with, or you might lose that relationship that you were so identified with, or something happens to your children, or, if you view yourself as a caretaker, you might have something happen where now you're the one that needs to be taken care of. So it's a transformation, clearly, and it usually happens pretty fast and unexpectedly. And, you might not think about it at the time, but it usually, after a while, you can see the gifts in it, but it's not a graceful transformation. So a graceful transformation would be to consciously choose to go through this process and get the guidance and support that you need. And, make time in your life for it and make space in your life for it and to, understand the priority that it is and really, get the kind of support that you need to go through it in the most graceful way. Because when you go through it consciously and you're choosing, it's much more graceful than having the universe, pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because even as you were talking about your story, I was like, wow, I wonder if any of this it felt like that, felt like the rug being pulled out from under you. So I'm so glad that you explained the difference, that it doesn't have to be that way. Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't have to be that way at all. And, that way to go through it, it can be quick, but it can be hard to recover from. And what's so important right now at these times is that we are co-creating a whole new world together. And everyone who is here has to play a part in that. And you came here, you incarnated to play a part in that. And you have these wonderful soul gifts that your soul just passionately wants to give. And you can do that after you let go of all this false programming that is inside of each one of us, because that's just the way it works. So we really are changing from, this whole consciousness of separation that we grew up in. We're not connected to each other. And Greg Braden talks about the 5 myths of science. And he talks about how these 5 myths that we have been taught and that have been programmed into all levels of our society, that they're false, that they're wrong. And they have caused us to make choices and create this world that's now, kind of falling apart because it's not sustainable. And we're killing ourselves, we're polluting ourselves, and because it comes from a consciousness of separation. So that all needs to be cleared out of all of our programming so that we can come into this new consciousness of unity, and that it's a consciousness of unity and love and abundance for all, where we're all co-creating paradise together.
I love that. And so because I know that you say there are 3 fundamental steps to graceful transformation. So I would love if you could share those with us. So, now that we know it doesn't have to be a painful rug pulled out from under us, if you could share those 3 steps, that would be so helpful.
Right. Well, the first one I've already been talking about, quite a bit, and that is to deprogram our subconscious and detox our emotional bodies. And that will help us to raise our vibration. So to address this step, I created the Emotional Mental Detox Program, and we can talk about that later. The second step is to embody and express your human divinity and express your soul purpose, why you came here. So our divine DNA is already inside of us, but it's lying dormant. It's waiting for activation and for us to learn how to use it. So my Divine Human Upgrade Program accomplishes this step. And then once you've embodied your human divinity, you're ready to consciously co-create your personal version of paradise. And you can upgrade your home, your business, your community with something that I call the Paradise Codes, which is an energetic blueprint for paradise. And these can be downloaded into property, and they can also be embodied by us on an individual basis. So my husband Casey and I, we host individual couples and groups here on Kauai and give people a week-long immersion into the paradise frequencies and consciousness. So once we embody these paradise codes, then we can create our paradise anywhere, and we'll be able to contribute our unique soul gifts to the planetary restoration of paradise on Earth.
Wow. it's so funny because when you say it, there's such authority and confidence about it that I'm like, okay. And I think that's part of it, right? How much does belief factor into this?
It is everything. Belief is I would say, the film of our reality. So we have a life force energy that moves through us, and it moves through our beliefs, which is like the film, and it projects a reality onto the holographic, illusionary reality that we interact with. So belief is everything. And then on the other hand, belief is just a thought that we decided to make true. But once we decide to make it true, and we can decide this either, on a conscious level or a subconscious level, just like we just accept it, because everybody else believes it, right? So once we do believe it, that is our mind then will create that illusion, and that's what we will experience as a reality. But we can uncreate our beliefs and recreate them and just write a whole new script and have a whole new reality.
Wow. Okay. So for everybody listening, what's the most important place to start? What do we need to focus on first?
Well, we want to first get rid of those 6 core issues that we've identified as something that we all have in common, because we've been all growing up in this consciousness that has believed in the last 300 years of these false beliefs, and it's like everywhere. So as a matter of fact, Greg Braden says, for the past 300 years, false scientific beliefs had portrayed us as insignificant beings that originated through a series of biological flukes. And then somehow we survived 5,000 years as powerless victims, separate from the harsh world we find ourselves. So these false beliefs have permeated every aspect of our society, and they're now the default programming in our subconscious minds. So, and Einstein says you can't find a solution from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. So that's why there's this urgent need to delete these programming errors right now. So I'd like to take us all through it. This is when we can do a little mini workshop and go through it together and find out how these 6 core issues have manifested in your life. Because each one of us, even though we have the 6 basic core issues, we all dramatize it in a different, unique way. So let's identify how we've dramatized it. So this is where you grab your paper and...
Everybody get ready. This is going to be fantastic.
Yeah. So just follow along with me, and I'll actually tell you when to write something down, because a lot of this is going to be feeling. Okay, so the first one you can write on your paper is male aspect. So that has to do with the role of males and masculine energy in our world and how you relate to males and male energy. So remember I said that in our first 7 years, everything that's going on in our environment is downloaded. It's unfiltered, and it just comes into our consciousness. So think back to your first 7 years and remember who were the significant males in your life at that time. So it could be your father, your brothers, uncles, grandfathers. And drop down a little deeper into your emotional center. And just notice now what you feel when I ask these questions. Was your father present? Physically, emotionally? Did you feel loved, honored, cherished, and protected by your father? Did he tell you you were beautiful, smart, competent? Did he value your ideas? Did he encourage your dreams? So jot down some words or phrases now that describe how you feel about yourself, how that inner child feels about itself based on your experience with your father? Just a few words, phrases. So the next thing is, what did you download from your parents' relationships? So again, just listen for a moment and then you can write. What messages did you get from your mother about men? Can you trust them? Will they be there for you? Did your father trust your mother? What messages did you get about who you can trust in this world? Do you trust yourself? And what did you download about what men think about women? So just write down a few words about your attitudes that you developed in relation to trust and men. Good. Now, have you noticed any repeating relationship patterns over the course of your life? Do you kind of keep having the same relationship over and over again, different faces, different places, yet the same pattern? So feel into that for a moment. And then write down, what is your predominant repeating relationship pattern? Okay, so even if you're in a female body right now, you have a mind, which is also a male expression of energy. It relates to the left hemisphere of the brain. So the mind likes to understand. It likes to analyze. It likes to figure things out. It likes to know the outcome before it happens. It likes predictability. That's why it likes the programs and patterns so much. And it's the part of us that makes the plan and takes the action. And the mind relies on the five senses for data input. So reflect for a moment. How much does your male mind trust or allow for your feminine heart, your emotions, your intuition? And just write down a few words about the relationship between your mind and your heart. Okay, good. So here are a few of the distortion patterns that arise from these programming errors that we have related to males. So just write down any that you're aware of. I'm going to just read a few, and you can write down what you feel like you might have going on for you. So issues about abandonment, betrayal, victimization, feelings of anger, rage, hatred, resentment, patterns where you're involved somehow in manipulation, control, enslavement. Okay, so now for the good news. I don't want to leave you in that energy too long. After you detox your false programming about men and male energy, you'll be able to replace the distrust and the defense and the constriction and develop the ability to deeply discern truth and integrity in yourself and others. And with the negative memories and the emotions of the past neutralized, you're going to be free to be in the present moment and respond consciously. And so you'll be able to think those new thoughts and make those new decisions and take new actions instead of the automatic triggered responses that you probably have now. And you'll be able to make wise and healthy choices. And your inner female and your inner child will finally be able to trust your balanced, healthy, mature inner male. And get this, you'll also then manifest everything. You'll be able to attract, because you're embodying it yourself, you'll be able to attract balanced, healthy, mature males into you, because your outer relationships are going to then shift to align with your new inner reality. So let's go on to the next programming error that we all share.
I was going to say, that all sounded very familiar. Okay, go ahead.
Well, as you might expect, we have false beliefs about females and female expressions of energy. So you can write down the title, Female Aspect.
Okay.
So when we bring the inner male into that healthy balance, then you're ready to heal and empower your inner female. And even if you're in a male body, you still have an inner female. So this is associated with the right hemisphere of the brain, with emotions and intuition and creativity and the ability to allow energy to flow. So again, remember your early childhood. And how did your parents deal with emotions, with their emotions? And were you encouraged to express your emotions? What happened when you did? How safe was it to express your emotions? So just write down a few words about how you deal with your emotions now based on what you were getting from them then. So in your first 7 years, you were naturally operating out of the right hemisphere of the brain. We all were, and that's why we were downloading all of this information, because it just came in unfiltered. But this is also the part of us that deals with imagination, creativity, and those unseen subtle energies. So you were probably naturally drawn to nature and beauty. So again, dropping down and feeling into it, was your imagination and creativity encouraged and celebrated? And were you encouraged to express and trust the subtle energy you perceived? What happened when you experienced something that no one else could see? So write down a few words about what you decided about that feminine aspect of you. So the good news on this one is that when you detox your female programming errors, you'll be able to reactivate those feminine qualities of beauty, intuition, creativity, receptivity, and those perceptions of the unseen and the unknown. So you'll find yourself better able to hear and trust your intuition and express your emotions constructively and to express your creativity. And when your inner male and your inner female are finally healed and balanced, your inner child will finally feel safe to be in your body and on the planet. So just kind of tune in with your inner child now and just check, does your inner child feel safe? So the next one is fear. So when your inner family is balanced and strong and working together, then you're going to be ready to face your fears. So fear is used to control behavior. That's what it's for. And it starts in families, and it's in schools and churches and, commerce, and it's everywhere, obviously. So in your early childhood, these patterns of fear were used originally, these messages of fear. They were used to socialize you so that you would be able to be accepted in the community. I don't think that any of our parents consciously says, well, I'm going to scare this kid to death. But we got these consistent messages about all these threats, these outside threats. And so they came into our subconscious, and then they become our inner voice. So anxiety, worry, self-doubt, these are all milder forms of fear, and yet these messages are so constant that they really just, go all the way through our consciousness, and they create a comfort zone. So just feel into what is your number one fear, and just write that down. So fear and worry have an effect on your body. And those frequencies, that's a very slow vibration, and it brings down the vibration of your body so that it's not at a healthy state anymore. And it has a cumulative effect. And so, we sometimes feel very locked into a small comfort zone. So just kind of feel into, are the walls of your comfort zone starting to close in on you? And is the physical, emotional, spiritual pain of staying the same starting to outweigh the fear of the unknown? Because we were programmed to fear the unknown too, right? So there's a quote that I like by Robert Allen: everything you want is just outside your comfort zone. So for me, my biggest fear was losing my husband. And when I released my fear, everything shifted, and I could see that actually our soul contract had come to completion. We had balanced our karma. We had done what we came to do together. And I actually chose to leave the marriage at that point. And I went out on my own, and I created this wonderful new life because I was free to follow my inner guidance. And, of course, that took me on all kinds of wonderful adventures, and I end up here. So write down in a word or two what you'll be free to do when you let go of your fear. So the next core issue that we all have is pain. So you can write that down, pain. So, human suffering. There's so much pain in this world. And I say, it's time to transcend it. The good news is that in the paradise frequencies that we're moving into, chronic health and pain are not present. And there is good news. There's a way to easily and gracefully transcend the pain and the chronic trauma and the drama that causes all this pain, because you can't take it with you into paradise. It takes a lot of energy to hide and suppress pain. It's a lot of energy. And when you transform all that energy into pure love, it it's so much easier than you think. It's really very easy to do once you know how to do it. And I would love to show you how, and I would love to hold your hand and guide you through it. I'd be so honored to help you restore the true love that you are, because beneath all that pain is a bright love light. And I can see it when I look out at all of you. And I want you to see it, and I want you to feel it too. So the next programming error is guilt. And you can write that one down. And along with that goes judgment. So first we judge, that's the mental part, and then we feel guilty. So that's the emotional part. So guilt, judgment, self-denial, self-pity, and shame, they all destroy our self-worth. So in those first 7 years, you download millions of little rules that you learn at home and at school about, what is right and what is wrong. And you actually kind of record the voice of your parents and your teachers, and those voices become internalized. So now as an adult, even though your parents aren't around every day, that inner critic keeps you in line. But the thing is, these are obsolete rules and judgments that they're not relevant anymore at all. So, who here has a really loud inner critic? So wouldn't you like to be free of that inner critic? And what we do is transform judgment into discernment. So discernment is being able to determine what is aligned with you and your highest good and what's not. And that's an individual moment-by-moment decision to make. And when you're clear of all of the programmed rules about what's right or wrong, then you're going to have that access to your clear guidance about what's right for you in this moment. Just what's in alignment. It's not about right or wrong. It's just about alignment, energetic alignment. So here's the last one, lack. So lack, limitation, scarcity, and separation. Unfortunately, it's programmed into your consciousness from the moment you're born. There's the roosters. And it's reinforced continuously since then. And it's another core issue that we all share. So just remember into your childhood, and you can jot down a few words about your family's financial situation back then. Was there stress around money? What messages did you get about how easy or hard it was to get what you wanted or needed? And if your parents weren't wealthy, what did they say about wealthy people? And if your family was considered, comfortable or well off, did they worry about losing their wealth, or did they fear being taken advantage of? So I've talked to so many people who, they uncover subconscious programming that keeps them from becoming prosperous because they're afraid of how others will respond to them. And so they don't even let themselves go there at a subconscious level. So we've touched on the 6 programming errors that everyone needs to detox from the consciousness. And this deprogramming, it's a necessary first step if you really want to be who you really are and do what you came here to do. And if you want to raise your vibration enough to align and evolve with Mother Earth as she restores the planet to the original paradise that as it was created. So, and it's a necessary first step, Kristen, if you want to embody your human divinity.
Oh, I'm sitting here I'm blown away. I'm like, how have I not heard this in this way? This is so essential. So thank you so much for taking us through this, because I think it really, it's so revealing. It's literally like, here, take a look at what's absolutely essential for all of us to do. So Thank you for that. I do have a quick question. When you are free from toxic thoughts and emotions and, subconscious programming, what is that like? Mm-hmm. What is life like then?
Okay. Well, I kind of explained to you what my life is like. I went from Detroit, Michigan to paradise with my Sacred Union partner. But clients will say things like, it's totally amazing. Judy wrote this one in. It's totally amazing. I watched, she went to some kind of family reunion or holiday or something like that. And she had this get together and she had been dreading it. I knew because she talked about it in the class. She says, it was totally amazing. I watched my siblings torment each other like they usually do. But this time I did not participate in any of it. So they tried to push my buttons, but it seems I didn't have any. I just laughed at things that used to get me really hurt and upset. And after a while, they stopped trying to bait me. So I just stood back and watched with this new disengaged kind of feeling. It was actually kind of comical to watch. And I knew that they were acting out of their programming. And I actually had a deep sense of love and compassion for them. And I was in so much gratitude because I was in such control of my own thoughts and emotions and behaviors. So that was
wow.
Really, yeah.
I mean, that's amazing because I think it's helpful for everyone listening to hear what's possible. So do you have any other stories you can share with us?
Yeah, I have this one from Deborah. She was in a recent class. She said, my crown chakra opened up and my heart has opened and it's full of joy. In fact, I get tears of joy because I'm allowing things in that are so touching. Colors are brighter. I have a greater appreciation for life in general. I have a higher level of trust in life. And I no longer feel like I need to control everything because I let go of my fear. This has been a huge blessing for me. And here's one from Jean. She said, after detoxing my pain programming, I was able to release chronic pain immediately. It's a miracle. Whoa. And then Abby, she said, before the class, I ended my career in a long-term relationship, so I was in a lot of depression. My depression is completely gone now. And even more importantly, I love that because, what's more important than
right.
depression? So, even more importantly, after doing the guilt detox, I feel like I'm 16 years old again. I have energy and vitality I haven't had in years. I trust in life more, and I'm not attached to the outcomes. So when things don't work out the way I expected them to, it's easy for me to just let go and go with the flow. And here's one more from Joe. He said, I've known my soul's purpose for a long time, but I stopped myself from going for it because I feared failure and I worried that I'd be disappointed. But after the lack detox, opportunities showed up that allowed me to gracefully step into my soul's purpose without any effort, and the resources started magically showing up to support me. So,
wow.
Kristen, it just really brings me such joy to hear my clients report these high levels of inner peace and harmony, more harmony in relationships, expanded intuition and synchronicity, and ease in manifesting whatever they want and whatever they need. So I really feel so blessed. I feel like I've got the best gig in the whole world.
Yeah, no, and I can feel that from you, and that's what I love. And it's true. I mean, hearing what, just those 4 or 5 stories that you just shared with us that people have experienced, I know just from emails that I've received from our listeners that so many people will resonate with, those different stories because, this is a lot of what's going on right now, and people are wanting that harmony. And so I'm so excited because I love being able to help people take control of their life, and bringing you to everyone today is part of that. And everything you're offering is so valuable. And literally, you took us through that little mini workshop there. And I was like, Oh, this is so essential. So, and obviously there's so much more to learn from you. So I had you create a special offer, which you very nicely did for everybody who's listening. So everyone just click that special offer button and you'll be taken right there. And Suzanna, if you can talk us through what we'll find here, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Well, I use a simple, guided, and a systematic approach from my instructional design days. So there's 6 detox sessions to coincide with those 6 core programming errors. And I deliver the detox sessions in a guided meditation style. So I guide you to relax and take you deep where your programming resides. And I help you to access all levels of your consciousness and your emotional body, your physical body, your spiritual bodies, all at the same time. So that's what I mean by a graceful transformation. I'll guide you step by step, giving you the programming commands that will help you to delete the old programming. And then I guide you to transform all of that stored emotional energy into pure love. So the 6 detox sessions are recorded, and they have some beautiful background music that was specially designed by a sound healing therapist to enhance the experience. And there's an instruction manual that gives you exactly what you need to listen to in the right sequence and all kinds of instructions so that you can do it on your own. So now I recommend that people only listen to one a week because you're going to need that time to integrate the changes. Again, this is for graceful transformation because, maybe when you do the meditation, you might not experience a whole lot in that session, but you actually have changed your programming on the inside, and your outer world is going to start to change and align with that. So waiting a week in between helps to make sure that you don't initiate too many changes too quickly, because that wouldn't be graceful.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Let me ask you this, because I do know that you use guided visualizations. If you can't visualize, or if you're not good at meditating, will this still work?
Yes, it definitely still works, because it's not the kind of meditation where you're asked to clear your mind. It's a new consciousness technology. And what makes it work are the intentional commands that I give you when you're in the right brainwave state and aligned with your whole being. So I guide you. So all you have to do is just listen, and you don't have to see it. You don't have to feel anything. Just follow along with it. And I'm guiding you to make these programming changes. So it works even if you don't visualize or meditate.
I love that. And I love that you've broken it down into, basically, could we look at it as 6 weekly, since you say you don't recommend doing more than one a week. So we could go through it in 6 weeks. Is that a good way of approaching it? So
you go through one a week, and, there's all kinds of other things in the package. So if you scroll down that page, you'll see that there's one session for all the core issues that we talked about: male, female, fear, guilt, pain, and lack. So it's all there. And then if you scroll all the way down to where it says support materials, you get the empowerment guide, and that has all the instructions that you need to move through the course. And then you get the triple flame energy field detox. And you will get instant access to this as soon as you sign up, and you're going to want that because you're going to want to do it right away. This is the meditation that has been experienced by probably over 100,000 people in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And you're going to love it. It clears out your energy field so that your life force energy can flow freely through your body, and it prepares you for the deeper detox of the subconscious and the emotional body. Because I found that when you clear out this energy body first, the detox of the deeper, denser stuff releases with grace and ease. And again, so it's to help make it more graceful. Then we have the integration meditation, and this is one you can use after the detox sessions to help you make a smooth transition from the old programming to the true new you that's emerging. And so I guide you to call in different frequencies of light, like joy and love and bliss and ecstasy. So after doing this a couple of times, you're going to be able to change your state of being on command in an instant. You just say joy, and the frequency of joy will just fill your body, and you'll be in joy. How cool is that?
That's so cool.
So I've included my peace and relaxation meditations. And again, you can use these anytime you want, and they support your graceful transformation. And then we have a 1-year membership in the Reality Crafting Online Support Network. So this is a private social network where you can connect with others who are on their pathway to paradise. This is our community. And I'm also available to answer questions via email and give you online coaching as you're going through the program.
Wow.
So then you get online access to the Radiant One activation. So this is a very beautiful movie meditation that actually activates your deep soul memory of who you are and why you're here. And this is actually the activation that started me on my pathway to paradise. So I'm excited to share that. And then we have the very powerful I Am activation. And this is just a very short 3-minute animation that actually shows you the sacred geometry of your I Am presence and how to align with it. So I have clients tell me that they watch it every morning, and it helps them to consciously create their day. And
wow.
Yeah, so now if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the offer there.
There's so much in this, but what I love about it is it's not overwhelming because you're telling us exactly how to go through it. So I'm so excited. So when we start working with this, what are some of the experiences or feelings or benefits that we could expect to start having literally, right away?
Right away, you'll notice the triggers that used to trigger you. You know how people say that, he pushes my buttons?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to notice that the buttons aren't there anymore, and that you're not going to be triggered into automatic response. You're going to have the ability to be really present and make a conscious response. And because you've raised your vibration, and because we've been working with the energy of grace and compassion, your responses that you're going to be inspired with are going to come from grace and compassion. And when you make those kind of responses or decisions and take those different kind of actions, that's when the other part of the reprogramming occurs. And once you do that just a few times, because you still have a mind, and mind still loves those patterns and programs,
right?
But it's going to rewrite the program for you to respond in a graceful, compassionate way. And then that becomes automatic. So that's like the biggest thing. The other things that they talk about is the feeling of inner peace and that sense of feeling grounded and centered and like in the eye of the storm, and like no matter what else is going on, I am at peace and I have the confidence. Confidence is another one, the confidence that I can move through this gracefully. So peace, confidence, and presence.
Wow. All of that alone. I'm like, okay, good. I got to go. I have to go do this. No, it's absolutely amazing. And I love also that you have made yourself available, because I think that's what a gift. I mean, your energy is just so incredible. So to feel that, there is the ability to connect with you as well is fantastic. And even what you said before of, you get to the point where you can say joy and have it flood your body. All of that, that's just, I'm in awe. I'm very excited by this, I have to tell you. Just click that special offer button and we'll take you right to the page. And, you're going to love this. If this resonates with you, you are going to love this. I am just so excited by what you are sharing with us here, Suzanna. I just can't even believe it. First of all, what you shared with us on this call alone, you really gave above and beyond, and I have to thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and that is what comes through, is that it truly is your pleasure, and that's a gift in itself. So thank you for everything. that you've shared. Thank you for the energy that you've shared. I'm so thrilled that I have been able to bring you to this extraordinary group of people that listen to these calls. Do you have, before we send you off today, do you have anything else that you feel compelled to share with us?
I would like to share that you are all such beautiful beings of light, and I can see that. We love light in a body, and we need you. The world needs you to be who you are and do what you came here to do. It's so important, and your life does have purpose and meaning, and whatever I can do to support you being who you are and giving the gift of you to the world, it would be my honor and pleasure to do that.
Wow, that's absolutely phenomenal. I love that. Thank you for those words, because I really want that to be ringing in everybody's ears as they leave today. You are true, beings of light, and the world does need each and every one of you. You are all extraordinary, and I thank you for being here. And Suzanna, I can't wait until we get to do this again, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Kristen. It was a wonderful time that we had together, and I love your energy, too. This is really a nice co-creation here.
Thank you. I have a huge smile on my face. All right, until the next time, everyone, keep manifesting, and thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye, everyone.